So, reading from the Golden Volcano, Śrīla Śrīdhara Mahārāja is saying that according to the solar calculation, it was on the day of Makara Sankranti, an auspicious conjunction of the stars, that Nimai Pandit went to Katwa to take sannyas, the renounced order of life. After this, he would become known as Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu. He swam across the Ganges, and in wet cloth he ran towards Katwa. He told only a few of his friends, including Nityananda Prabhu, Gadadhar Pandit, Mukunda, and others. The time when I will accept the robe of renunciation is very near. So there were a few events leading up to Mahaprabhu taking the decision to become a renunciate. A few events led up to that. And one of the significant events was the opposition party. He had received and was continuing to receive opposition to his Sankirtan movement. So this was an impetus then. And this will be explained why, in the face of different types of opposition, why the conclusion to meet that opposition would be to become a sannyasi. Just a few days before this, an opposition party had been raised against Nimai Pandit. And so also to note, before this he is only known as Nimai Pandit. He is not known as Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya. He is only known as Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya after he took sannyas. And Keshava Bharati called him Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya, his sannyas guru, Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya. Otherwise he was known as Nimai Pandit, or Vishvambar. No, Vishvambar. Vishvarup. Vishvambar. As Vishvambar. His childhood name. Those who believe that material nature is the highest principle and that consciousness is a product of matter began to abuse Nimai Pandit. He thought, I came to deliver the lowest of men, but they commit offenses against me. There will be no hope for their upliftment. Suddenly Mahaprabhu said, I came with that medicine which gives the greatest relief, but now I find that their disease is rapidly growing worse and seems beyond treatment. It will take its own course towards doom. The patients are committing offenses by abusing their doctor. They are making arrangements to insult me. They take it that I am a family man, their nephew. They take me as one of them. I came with the best medicine for the present degraded age, but now I find that they are plotting against me. Now they are doomed. At least I have to show them that I am not one of them. So there were different groups in Nabadweep at the time, as we have discussed previously. Different groups of materialists, philosophers, logicians, and the group of devotees, the Vaishnavas, were actually a minority at the time. They were a minority group. He thought, I shall leave family life. I shall take sannyas. I shall wander from village to village, town to town, preaching the holy name of Kṛṣṇa. That was his decision. And within a few days, he went to take sannyas at Katwa from Keshava Bharati. The day before he left to take sannyas, however, from the afternoon until the evening, there was a spontaneous gathering of devotees in the home of Nimai Pandit. Every year in Bengal, that day was celebrated as Lakshmi Puja, worship of the goddess of fortune, when special cakes are prepared and distributed. Nimai, knowing that early the next morning he would leave Nabadweep to take sannyas, the Lord attracted his followers in such a way that almost every leading devotee came to see him that evening. So, we should not forget that Mahaprabhu is also the Supersoul. Or we would say the Supersoul is a plenary portion of him. It is mentioned in few places that the Gayatri of Om Bhur Bhuva Swa, this also worships Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu. Some people take it that this Gayatri worships the sun. Others take it that this Gayatri worships Surya Narayan, the manifestation of Narayan as the sun. Some take it that this worships Narayan himself, others the super soul. All are correct to some degree, but not fully correct. So, Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu being the incarnation of Kṛṣṇa, and Kṛṣṇa being the source of Narayan and the super soul, it is taken that Mahaprabhu himself is the super soul of his devotees. So it is mentioned that the Paramatma, the size of the thumb, dwells within your heart. And realizing the Lord of your heart, you will see this beautiful form of the Lord with 4 hands. And nice descriptions are there in the Bhagavatam of the realized form of the Lord in the heart. However, if you are a devotee of Kṛṣṇa in the line of Mahaprabhu, and you have the fortune one day to see the form of the super soul who guides you, and that will be the form of Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu. He is the super soul of his devotees. Others, they are guided by the Paramatma, Chatur Bhuj, 4-armed form. Chatur Bhuj? What is 4-armed form? Sadbhuj. No, Chatur Bhuj. The 4-armed form of Vishnu. Even the birds, the beasts, they are guided by this form of Vishnu. But the devotees, they are guided by the super soul of Mahaprabhu, his devotees. So, on that day, he attracted them, and they all came, many. And when coming, they all brought a gift or a present. Very spontaneously they came. And of course, this paralleled or coincided to Lakshmi Puja. It is the custom in India that during this time, you will go to a friend's house or a relative's house or someone with whom you have affectionate dealings, and you'll bring some gift, particularly some sweets. Something like Diwali. Particular types of sweets, though, on that day are made. And many of them resemble cakes, what we call cakes in the Western world. So many of the devotees came, they brought various gifts, spent some time with Mahaprabhu, and then went away. So this continued late into the evening. They came with flower garlands and many other offerings to be presented to the Lord. Nimai accepted their garlands and then placed them on the necks of the devotees who gave them. Only 4 of his most intimate devotees knew he was leaving. Ordinary devotees did not know this would be his last night in Nabadweep. With his own hands he garlanded the necks of his devotees and appealed to them. Always chant the name of Kṛṣṇa. Under no condition should you give up this Kṛṣṇa Nam. And don't do anything else while working, eating, sleeping, or walking, even sleeping, day or night. Whatever you do, continuously take the holy name of Kṛṣṇa. Always talk about Kṛṣṇa and nothing else. If you have any real attraction for me, then don't do anything without chanting the name of Kṛṣṇa. So this was Mahaprabhu's supreme mandate to his devotees. And he was giving that instruction to everyone on that last evening in Nabadweep. The Lord said, cultivate Kṛṣṇa consciousness. Kṛṣṇa is the origin of us all. So he is in the position of a devotee. That is the uniqueness of the avatar of Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu. Other avatars come and mainly they just deal with evil. They destroy evil. They come and they destroy evil. Most avatars. Some come and impart knowledge. And they don't necessarily deal with evil, like Narayan Rishi in Himalayas or something like that. But Varaha and Narasingha, Vamana even. They come and they dispense with evil, the demons at some point. They also impart some knowledge. And they perform some pastimes of leisure, and they withdraw from the world. Kṛṣṇa, Rama, particularly Kṛṣṇa, both of them are also dispensing with demons, evil. They're performing their pastimes of leisure, setting some example for human society and withdrawing. But in Kṛṣṇa, it goes a little bit farther. Kṛṣṇa is enjoying. Kṛṣṇa is enjoying like anything. Kṛṣṇa is enjoying at every step. Kṛṣṇa is not showing the pastimes of suffering, except sometimes momentarily while fighting a demon. Kṛṣṇa pretends to be overcome by grief or lamentation or something during the battle or something like this, momentarily. Whereas Ramachandra spent years in the forest and was separated from Sita for a long time when she was taken off by the demon Ravana. But we don't find this. Sometimes demons appear in Krishna Lila to take away the gopis, and they're finished within a few moments, a few minutes. They're killed by either Krishna or Balaram. It's not tolerated over a long period of time. However, Krishna is enjoying at every step. And of all the avatars, although Krishna is often referred to by the Hindus as the principal avatar, well, fact is, he's resented by a lot of Hindus also, you see, because he had many girlfriends, and he married 16,108 wives, and basically he was enjoying at every step. He was a supreme enjoyer, and he let everybody know about that. So it is very hard sometimes for even religious people to accept that God is the enjoyer of everything. He is to enjoy. He is not my order supplier. He is not there to carry out my every wish and demand. But actually it is quite the opposite. We are there to carry out His every wish and demand. He is not our servant, but we are His servant. So in the Krishna avatar, although many things are dealt with, destroying evil and demons and teaching and so forth, he performs his wonderful pastimes with his devotees, his pastimes of love, his pastimes of enjoyment, in extreme excess of any other avatar. There is no other avatar that we have ever heard of that comes even close to demonstrating that he is the supreme enjoyer. We find little enjoyment in Varaha. After Varaha saved the earth, it is said that he came and reclined in some hills here and there. I think maybe Tirupati, maybe amongst them, reclined in some hills here and there and had his leisurely pastimes. What leisurely pastimes means, he was kind of lying around on the throne relaxing. Leisurely. Leisurely pastimes. They're different than the pastimes of intense enjoyment, you see. And Rama also like that, not showing us intense enjoyment. But Krishna's his pastimes are like that. So they're oftentimes resented by people. They're oftentimes resented. People find much fault with the pastimes of Krishna, where they find little to no fault with the pastimes of Rama, with Lord Ramachandra. But with Krishna, they find much fault. So, knowing this, Krishna himself decided to come again, approximately 4,000 and something years after he appeared in Vrindavan at the end of Dwarpa Yuga. It was Dwarpa Yuga when Krishna appeared. And then it lapsed over and into the Kali Yuga, the very end of Dwarpa Yuga. So the Supreme Lord decided to descend again, but this time in the mood of a devotee. And he would come himself, and he would not be an enjoyer. He would be a sacrificer. He would not just destroy evil as he had done in many other incarnations with his chakra or with his mace, but he would destroy the root of all evil. The root of all evil is in the heart of the living being. The root of evil is in the heart. Evil is, what we see in the world, it is due to something. Even in our present time, terrorism, this evil that has gripped the attention of the world. And before that, all types of people murdering and senseless violence. There is a root of it. It itself is not to blame. There is something deeper. The cause of the disease is there. That disease is forgetfulness of Krishna. We have forgotten the Supreme Lord. We have forgotten our position in relation to the Supreme Lord. And Mahaprabhu came to eliminate that disease. And the whole of his message to the people is centered around the holy name of Kṛṣṇa. It is uniquely centered around the holy name of Kṛṣṇa. But the Lord has his own purpose also. The Lord is always the enjoyer. He doesn't, in another age, he kills Hiranyakashipu. Because Hiranyakashipu is attacking Prahlad, his pure devotee, he comes. But deeper than that, the Lord himself has his own desire to kill demons. He has a desire to brawl with the demons. Then his devotees come into position where the demons are harassing them. The Supreme Lord comes and saves his devotees. It is a great drama. We find that, particularly in relation to Hiranyakashipu and others, that way back in the time of Jai and Vijay, when they were gatekeepers in Vaikuntha, the Lord was roaming in his gardens and palaces of Vaikuntha in all his opulent dress, surrounded by his servants in great awe and reverence, and various types of service they perform. And they saw him, and as we would say in modern language, just by his body language, they could understand that he wanted to fight with demons. He wanted to fight, but there were no demons competent really to give a battle to the Supreme Lord. So just like you may see in your children or your parents or in a friend, or somebody just comes in or is around in the day, and they haven't expressed anything, but you can just tell they're in a bad mood. You can just tell something's bothering them, you see. So the devotees, they could, in that way, but something more wonderful, they could understand the desire of the Supreme Lord. He wants to engage in combat. Well, who will he fight? These are all his devotees in Vaikuntha. And there are no demons in the material world worthy to give him a match, actually. Even the greatest demons we ever heard of were the devotees, who had become demons just to entertain the Lord's desire. And as all these other demons, they're on self-destruct, most of them. The little demons, the Hitlers and all these other fellows, they end up shooting themselves. Kṛṣṇa doesn't have to come here and destroy them. They're on most of them smoking themselves to death, you see. Killing themselves with cancer and other things. And Kṛṣṇa doesn't have to come and deal with them. They'll be defeated by their own actions. So these really big demons that Kṛṣṇa fights, those biggest ones, they are devotees themselves who come and take the position of a demon just to satisfy the Supreme Lord. So, but Mahaprabhu doesn't come and fight with demons. He comes and he destroys the demoniac tendency in the heart of all living beings by the agency of the holy name of Kṛṣṇa. But he has his own purpose. That's where I was a minute ago. He has his own purpose, but that purpose is not fighting. In the avatar of Śrī Krishna Chaitanya, his own purpose is one of intimate feelings between himself and the divine goddess Srimati Radharani. There is an expression of their love, exchange of their love, and in the exchanges of their love, it seems that Radharani has the upper hand. She has the upper hand in many dealings and seems to feel a greater intensity in the relationship between Radha and Kṛṣṇa. She seems to dominate in a number of ways and to enter and to experience something that even holds Kṛṣṇa in wonder. What is that? What is the love that she feels for me? What is the joy that she feels for me? What is the ecstatic mood behind her expressions? What are these things? And wondering this, then Kṛṣṇa decides to appear in the world as a devotee in the mood of Srimati Radharani, and so that he can try to understand devotion, the depth of devotion. Of course, he knows that he is attracted to devotion. Devotion attracts Kṛṣṇa. It is attracting the Supreme Lord. But at a particular point, he wants to relish the taste of that devotion himself. So that is his personal interest. And he enters this world. And on one hand, he delivers the fallen souls and gives them entrance into Vrindavan through the holy name. And on the other side, he performs his own, or fulfills his own purpose. But he waits almost to the last quarter of his life before he does that. The last 12 years of his life are spent in fulfilling his own purpose. And at that time, not even some of the highest devotees present on the planet were able to go close to him. But nowadays, even the most neophyte devotees think that they can easily qualify for these high topics of which Mahaprabhu engaged himself in. And this is their great folly. And they even go so far as to condemn Yuga Dharma. It's going on even amongst the Gaudiya Vaishnavas today, particularly in America and in Europe, condemning Yuga Dharma. That is Yuga Dharma. You see, we are in Raganuga, and we are for Gopi Bhav. We are for Madhurya Ras. We are for the high things. This is this other thing. This is Yuga Dharma. ISKCON is always being condemned. Oh, only Yuga Dharma, only Yuga Dharma, only Yuga Dharma. But this Yuga Dharma is different than all other Yuga Dharmas. This is called Prema Dharma. This Yuga Dharma, and not every Kali Yuga, but in this particular Kali Yuga, the Yuga Dharma gives one entrance into the eternal pastimes at Braj, in Vrindavan. This Yuga Dharma elevates one to the platform of Prema Bhakti, love of God. And who can actually know and relish the type of things that Mahaprabhu relished? That is very, very rare. Even his great devotees weren't around to witness this. Even what we've read about in Chaitanya Charitamrita only touches upon the topic. In a few places, Krishnadas Kaviraja Goswami, via the agency of, who was there? Swarup Damodar and Rai Ramananda and Govinda. Mainly three people were there. Through them, they talked. They talked something in the higher circle of devotees. And in time, then, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he recorded something about that. But Śrīla Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur would not allow any discussion about that. End of story. No discussion. And when reading those portions of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, they didn't stop reading and peel off 30 pages and go to the next section. They would read and they would hear, but without comment and no discussion. It is not for our opinion. It is such an exalted thing. It is not for our opinion. For if we make a wrong opinion and state a wrong opinion in that arena, this may create an offense. And that offense then will do harm for our ultimate progress. So, Mahaprabhu descended to take everyone who is willing to go back to home, back to Godhead, back to the eternal Vrindavan, back to the land of love, all through the holy name of Kṛṣṇa. And he devoted after coming back from Gaya, for the rest of his life, he devoted himself to that cause, the spreading of the holy name of Kṛṣṇa amongst all the fallen conditioned souls. And even in his last 12 years, when he came in contact with the people, he would again go back to that point and tell them, Bolo Hari Hari, Bolo Hari Hari, chant the name of Hari, chant the name of Kṛṣṇa, chant Kṛṣṇa Nam. Because in his last 12 years, he would sometimes come in contact with the public, the general public, and the general public of the devotees. And he would again come back to that point. So the supreme welfare for all living beings in the age of Kali Yuga is the holy name of Kṛṣṇa. It is not supreme welfare only up to a point and then something else has to be adopted in order to get the highest supreme welfare. There was a conversation on the internet last year. It was about whose japa is higher, Haridas Thakur or Rupa Goswami. Just hearing the title, I didn't even want to read it. Didn't even want to pay I didn't want to pay attention to it. But people kind of told me. Listen, Namacharya Haridas Thakur. I mean, we'll chant Jai Oms for Namacharya Haridas Thakur in most places in the world and not even mention Ramananda Roy, you see. However, in our deeper studies, no, it wasn't Ramananda Roy, sorry, Rupa Goswami, you see. In many places, Sat Goswami Ki Jai. We won't even maybe mention Rupa or Sanatan or any individual of the Goswamis. In many places, the devotees will just say 6 Goswamis Ki Jai, and in some places, not even that. But everyone knows, or I would hope everyone knows by now, that the supreme head of our sampradaya is indeed a Rupa Goswami. However, to make certain types of analysis and comparison between devotees is not necessary, does not further real devotional service, and may even end up in a result in an offense. Ishwara Puri is the guru of Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu. Whose japa is greater? What a foolish question. Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Lord. He's the Supreme Lord in the mood of Radharani. We all know that his japa is greater than anyone's japa. His crying of the holy name of Kṛṣṇa is greater than everyone. These same people are arguing about the position of Advaitacharya. Advaitacharya cannot give Brajabhav. But Śrīla Puri Maharaj said, but Advaitacharya brought Mahaprabhu to this world. That's a gift enough. From there, many things have been given. So you cannot compare Diksha and Shiksha Guru, one pure devotee against another. We should not make comparisons who's greater, Sukadev, Prahlad, Lakshmi. Sometimes we'll find some statements exalting those devotees, but to enter in to too much discussion on that, well, one thing, it will strip the beauty away. It will strip the innocent beauty of it away. Too much analysis. And the real thing that we're after, it will go away. Haridas Thakur was much senior to Rupa Goswami. I don't really have the day-to-day evidence. And Haridas Thakur was, of course, a great humble Vaishnava and would offer his respects to everyone. But you can bet that Rupa Goswami bowed down before Haridas Thakur many, many times and offered his heartfelt obeisances to the Namacharya. Just as Mahaprabhu always regarded his guru, Ishwara Puri, and lived by his order. And it was on his order that Govinda came to be Mahaprabhu's servant. Mahaprabhu's tendency was he would not accept any service from a godbrother. But on the order of his guru, his godbrother was sent there to become his servant. And Mahaprabhu acknowledged the order, the desire of Ishwara Puri. And he accepted Govinda as his servant. Not to accept service from a godbrother, but to fulfill the order of his spiritual master. So, to enter into a conversation and want to say who is greater, well, on one side we know the Supreme Lord is the greatest of all, and Mahaprabhu's standard of devotion is greater than anyone's standard of devotion. Nonetheless, to enter into a discussion about the disciple and his guru and who is better and who is higher is not a conversation that you will find in the assembly of pure Vaishnavas. You will not find that conversation being entertained there. So there are standards. There is a standard, and the origin of this standard is Mahaprabhu as far as we are concerned. Mahaprabhu performed what's called Acharya Leela. Acharya means who sets the standards. Either misunderstanding, misusing, or abusing the higher sentiments of Mahaprabhu which were his own. They were his own. Produced so many groups of sahajiyas following the time of Mahaprabhu for hundreds of years. To the point in 300 years, 300 to 400 years, real, pure Gaudiya Vaishnavism had reduced to a small handful of unknown personalities. Jagannath Das Babaji, Gaurava Das Babaji, Bhaktivinoda Thakura, some others also. Not so much known in our circles. Bamsi Das Babaji. A small handful in comparison to what was brought down to the world to become the salvation of conditioned souls. For 10,000 years of Kali Yuga, within a couple hundred years, it reduced to a handful. Then again, the standards of Mahaprabhu were reestablished by Bhaktivinoda Thakura and Śrīla Bhaktisiddhanta. And of the two, particularly Śrīla Bhaktisiddhanta. He established the standard of Mahaprabhu's movement for the conditioned souls. So, Mahaprabhu, he found that it is being neglected. His teaching is being neglected because they think he's an ordinary man. He thinks he's their nephew. See, he's younger than so many big pundits in the village, so they all call his nephew. All the boys call all the senior men as uncle, you see. So they're taking, he is a householder. He is married twice. His first wife expired. That was Lakshmi Priya, and then he married Vishnu Priya. So he is a man like us. He is a young man, very great pundit and so many things, but he is from our village. There is a saying, a saint is never accepted in his own village. That's a kind of a universal thing. So here it came into play also. Many were appreciating, but they were many devotees, you may say, were taking for granted his association. And of course, many were taking him as commonplace. And it is very nice. He leads a very nice kirtan, and after that, let us do Durga Puja, let us do this, let us do all these things also. Still that goes on in India today, even amongst many devotees who have accepted Mahaprabhu. They want to retreat home at certain times of the year and just take part in all kinds of other things, and worshipping of other things, and not solely devoting themselves to the worship of Kṛṣṇa, as Mahaprabhu told. Don't go anywhere else. Don't do anything else. Try to give your full attention to Kṛṣṇa and the holy name of Kṛṣṇa throughout every moment of your life, even when you're asleep. The Supreme Lord knows that on His scale, your life isn't even 1/10 of a second long. Your 100 years existence, if you can stretch it that far, is not even 1/10 of a second in the greater picture. It's just a blip on the screen. We're in and out of here. The human form of life is so very rare. Mahaprabhu says, we spend our days, nights uselessly sleeping. He calls it uselessly sleeping. And our days decorating our dead bodies. This is how the conditioned soul spends his life. And in between, so many embellishments of those things. Elaborate sleeping and elaborate decoration in the daytime. That's what he does. He spoils his life, does not worship the darling of Mother Yasoda, does not worship the Lord of his heart. Then he transgresses from this human life, and he is lost in the ocean of repeated birth and death. Mahaprabhu knows how valuable this life is. But yet he did not make all his devotees sannyasis. So we should understand that the fulfillment of life does not necessitate always, for everyone, becoming a sannyasi. It does not necessitate that. What it necessitates is everybody doing everything for the pleasure of Kṛṣṇa, always remembering Kṛṣṇa, always worshipping Kṛṣṇa, always chanting the name of Kṛṣṇa, always offering to Kṛṣṇa, always taking Kṛṣṇa prasad, always being with Kṛṣṇa's devotees. These are fanatical statements. Always, always, always these things. The other day we mentioned to Ken that we were talking about Vrindavan, and I was just telling him that one time I was in charge of supporting financially a big temple in Vrindavan, and just to give him an idea, said it has like 4,000 or 5,000 visitors a day. And he was like, wow, 5,000 visitors, and it just clicked. It's like all the church doors are sealed shut. I mean, if you're there at the right time in West Paulette, you might see the people going in and out of there on Sunday. Otherwise, there's nobody in the church. 5,000 a day? So it was like, that's amazing. 5,000 a day, you see. So Kṛṣṇa consciousness is not to be like other people have taken religion. You have a little bit of time to believe in God, or to believe in Jesus, or to believe in Kṛṣṇa. A little bit of time for that, set aside for that, and then you have your Maya all the rest of the time. No, That's not Mahaprabhu's recommendation at all. That's not the train we want to catch. The one we want is that one of full absorption in Kṛṣṇa. And it's not a bad life. It's not a bad thing. It's the sweetest of things. It's actually the best of things. So, the Lord says, cultivate Kṛṣṇa consciousness. Kṛṣṇa is the origin of all of us. He is our Father. We have come from Him. The son who shows no gratitude towards the Father is sure to be punished birth after birth. Always chant these names of the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. No other religious principle is required. Chant Hare Krishna. This is not an ordinary mantra, but this is the Maha Mantra. And here, Maha may mean something much more than just great. Some years ago I wrote something, it was about Mahabhav. It was a little article that I wrote on Radhastami when we were in Seattle. And it was telling the meaning of Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu. What is the meaning of Mahaprabhu? Because in India there are several great spiritual leaders from the past who are known as Mahaprabhu, because Maha means great and Prabhu means master. So I felt, well, that must be the very generic meaning then, because Mahaprabhu is something more than just a great master. We would, in our humble fanaticism, would say he's the great master, not a great master. So what must be the meaning of his name, which then no one else could claim? So suddenly I had a particular understanding of the name Mahaprabhu. That Maha meant Mahabhav, and Prabhu meant Kṛṣṇa. What is that? Rasaraj Mahabhav Doyeka Rup, and that was the verse to support it. The Rasaraj, Kṛṣṇa, who is also Prabhu. Prabhu means Kṛṣṇa. Rasaraj Mahabhav, Mahabhav means Radharani. Doyeka Rup, they are in one form. So Mahaprabhu, referring to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, must mean the divine or combined form of Radha and Kṛṣṇa. And therefore, Vallabhacharya is not Mahaprabhu. That was the main point. Vallabhacharya is not Mahaprabhu. He may be a great teacher in his own right in a certain plane, but he is not Mahaprabhu. And it came to be that Acharya became known as Mahaprabhu out of envy between the Vallabhas and the Gaudiyas. Simple act of envy. And he became known as Mahaprabhu. So, Maha is not just meaning great. Maha also means Mahabhav. Mahabhav is the highest plane of divine love. It is actually not possible for a jiva like you or I to enter into Mahabhav. It may be possible, may be possible to serve that plane of Mahabhav, and even that is very, very, very rare. That is very exceptional, very high, to even serve that plane. But Śrīla Śrīdhara Mahārāja once revealed that this mantra comes from that plane of Mahabhav. So, Maha Mantra doesn't mean just great mantra. It means the mantra which has come down from the plane of Mahabhav. And it is that mantra which will be propagated by the incarnation of Mahabhav. And that is Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu. He is also the incarnation of Mahabhav. He is experiencing the bhava of Radharani. That is the Mahabhava. Do you follow? So, this Maha Mantra that Mahaprabhu suggests that we chant is just not a general mantra. It is the greatest of all mantras, and it is the greatest of all great mantras also. But this is the Maha Mantra, the greatest of all the great mantras. I was right. The very essence of all the mantras known to the world. Only take to this always. No other prescription is to be followed. Remember your Lord, your home. This is a foreign land. You have nothing to aspire after here. Try always to go back home, back to Godhead. In this way, the Lord spoke, and all his devotees, intuitively, came because it was Nimai Pandit's last night in Nabadweep. Late that night, a devotee named Śrīla Śrīdhara arrived. He used to make a living on the plantain tree and its fruits. He would sell the fruit, ripe or green, and the big leaves which are used as plates. Sometimes Nimai would pay him less for his fruits than what they were worth, and sometimes he would simply snatch the fruits and pay nothing. Sridhara came to see Nimai and to offer him a choice pumpkin. So there were many pastimes between Mahaprabhu and Śrīla Śrīdhara. When he was growing up and in his youth, Mahaprabhu used to go with his friends and steal the fruits from the garden of Śrīla Śrīdhara. And when he was a little older man, and he'd be out shopping in the market and playing the pastimes of daily life in Nabadweep, and this poor devotee would have his fruits and bananas, and Mahaprabhu would come and bargain him down way below the normal price, take things away at a much cheaper price, or sometimes he would just take them away and not pay anything, you see. But this devotee was very poor. It said he was very, very poor, and whatever he made, however it was, he used to spend half of it in the worship of Mother Ganga. Half of what he had. Maybe that's where Srila Prabhupada drew the statement, householders should give 50% of their wealth to Kṛṣṇa consciousness. Maybe. He also had, this devotee had an old rusty pot. And once after Sankirtan, I believe it was after Sankirtan, Mahaprabhu went and drank water from this old, seemingly unfit pot. But being that it was the pot of a devotee, Mahaprabhu relished that. Although not doing everything to disturb society, Mahaprabhu usually did things that kept society in place. He did things which harmonized society. And that's why here on these days he went to Katwa to take sannyas from Keshava Bharati. He was a recognized sannyasi in the area. He was very recognized and reputed. Oh, he could have gone off, say, to South India and found a Śrī Vaiṣṇava or something and directly taken Tridandi sannyas of the Vaishnava order. But he wanted to save the people of Nabadweep. And in those times, the order of the Shankar sannyasi was the most respected, reputed. So he accepted sannyas there. Mahaprabhu generally did things to keep the order of society, so as not to discourage people by shaking up society too much. But sometimes he would do things that are absolutely opposite of not only society, but even scripture. It is said that a sannyasi should not take food in the house of a Sudra. He should not take his residence in the house of a Sudra. But sometimes Mahaprabhu did this, if that Sudra, quote unquote, was a pure Vaishnava. And thus he showed that above the Varnashram system, and even that which is considered the lowest and impure in Varnashram, when devotion to Kṛṣṇa is present, it becomes superior to even a Brahmin. A Sudra Vaishnava is purer than a Brahmin non-Vaishnava in the estimation of Mahaprabhu. Even the lowest thing becomes the highest thing when the element of pure devotion is present. So he would sometimes do things to instruct the devotees, but most of the time he would follow. He would sometimes stay with a non-Brahmin, and they would arrange to bring prasadam from the temple, and that non-Brahmin devotee would then serve the Lord, the deities, Mahaprasadam. But sometimes the Lord transgressed all those laws in order to show favoritism to his pure devotees, and also to teach the world what is the position of a pure devotee of Kṛṣṇa, of a real Vaishnava. So this devotee brought a wonderful pumpkin. And Nimai thought, I have spent almost my whole life snatching so many things from him, and now on my last night he has brought this wonderful pumpkin. I can't resist. He requested his mother. Mother, Sridhara has given me this pumpkin. Please think of how it can be prepared. And Mother Sachi made pumpkin sweet rice. Pumpkin, what do we call that? Pumpkin kheer, or habishan, not habishan, payasam, pumpkin payasam. It's a type of like sweet rice, but just with pumpkin and milk. No, I don't think any rice is there. Pumpkin payasam, sweet pumpkin. At bedtime, someone brought some milk, and Nimai said, Mother, with this milk and this pumpkin, please prepare some sweet rice. So Sachi Devi prepared some pumpkin sweet rice, pumpkin boiled with milk, rice, and sugar. So rice is there. At about 3 o'clock in the morning, Nimai left his house. He left Vishnupriya Devi asleep in bed. His mother Sachi, sensing what was to come, stayed awake all night guarding the door. So in those days, houses were a little different than they are now. That in South India, you can see how some of the old houses were. They have a entering room, and they just kind of go back deeper and deeper into the house, not like a branched in many directions. Houses, the first layer, the second, they just go like this. So in Bengal, it was also similar to that. You see one way in, one way out. And the bedrooms were in the back, and things associated more with the social living were in all the way to the front room was the room in the front. Mother Sachi guarded that door all night. She stood guard over the door, sensing that something was wrong. She just sensed the loss of her son, and she stayed awake, guarding the door. Nimai bowed down to her and went away. Like a stone figure, Mother Sachi sat by the gate as Nimai left. She couldn't move. When he came to leave, she was petrified, mortified, and she couldn't move. Mahaprabhu offered his obeisances to his mother, with Vishnupriya sleeping in the sleeping chambers, and he left. Like a stone figure, Mother Sachi sat by the gate as Nimai left. She could not say anything. She was struck dumb. Nimai swam across the Ganges, and in his wet cloth went straight to Katwa, a distance of 25 miles. He reached there by 9 or 10 o'clock. There he approached Kesava Bharati to take sannyas. In the early morning, the devotees came to see Nimai, as usual, and found Sachi Devi like a statue, sitting at the open door. Everything was empty. What's the matter, Sachi Devi? They asked. She told them, Oh, I was waiting for all of you devotees. Please take possession of the house. I shall go somewhere else. I can't enter this house anymore. You are his associates. You are his true heirs. Please take possession. They thronged around her and tried to console her. You will go? What about the young wife that he has left? The girl is only 14 years old. Who will protect her? Mahaprabhu was 24 years. That's the system in old India. When Prabhupada was married, his wife was 11 years old. He was 22. His wife was 11. That is the old system. Before 100 years ago, anything different than that was strange. Totally strange. And anyway, we won't get into that whole story, and there's no going back in time, but it was a very scientific story how to get people to stay together and be happy throughout life. And window shopping was eliminated. There was none. It wasn't eliminated, it didn't exist. Children were married. And sometimes they were married twice. They were first married when they were 6 years old. That was like a preempt. And then, if the families, after another 6 or 8 years, were totally in agreement, then they were married again. And sometimes there was even 3. And in some places of India, people get married again when they're 80 years old. There's a system. If they've been married for so many years, and there's special temples they go to, and they remain married throughout their life. When they hit like 80 or 90 or something, they go and perform the function again. It's just like it's like an anniversary type of a thing. But anyway, that was the old system. So Mahaprabhu was 24. Vishnupriya was 14. So they're appealing to Mother Sachi. But if you go, who will look after the daughter? It's bad enough that your son is left. You leave also. Who will look after the poor girl? So in this way, they were trying to provide some solace, that you have something to live for. He's gone. But what about your daughter-in-law? Something to live for. Mother Sachi's first feeling was, nothing to live for. Nothing to live for. My son is gone. Now we must remember that in the pastimes of the Supreme Lord, whatever you can feel for a son, a daughter, a mother, a father, a loved one, what Kṛṣṇa feels and what his devotees feel for them, the liberated devotees, is just at a minimum hundreds of thousands of times greater than what we can feel in this conditioned state. We have a limited feeling capacity. Mainly we are able to feel pain, lots of pain. We were explaining the other day, so much pain comes out of this body, so little pleasure. We generally do not faint due to pleasure. We have got so much happiness today that we fainted. But pain renders us unconscious sometimes. Tooth pain, foot pain, leg pain, certain types of pain. Sometimes a mother, more than others, faints due to heart pain. Generally men don't faint. Men, their son dies or something like this, men usually don't faint. Mothers faint. Why? They have a softer heart. It is said in this world, there is no pure love, but the closest thing to it is a mother's love. The closest thing. It is not boy meets girl. That is not closest. That is actually very far away in terms of purity. The purity is measured more, found more in a mother's love. See. So, Mother Sachi, no reason to live. She wants to go away. So they were trying to convince her to stay. What about the young wife that he has left? The girl is only 14 years old. Who will protect her? You can't shun the responsibility given to you. It is on your shoulders. In this way they came and consoled her and tried to give her some hope. Suddenly the devotees heard that Nimai Pandit, Sri Gauranga, had left Nabadweep. They learned that he had gone to Katwa, to Keshava Bharati's ashram to take sannyas, bidding goodbye to the people of Nabadweep forever, and they all went there to stop him. A runaway, bring him back. And everyone, even Lord Nityananda Prabhu, who knew what is going to happen, but anyway, he went along for the ride. Everybody went to Nabadweep to catch Nimai Pandit, bring him back to his senses, talk sense to him, and bring him back amongst his loved ones in Nabadweep. So they all went there, and by the end of the day, by the end of the first day, they say there was several thousand people had reached Katwa. First a few devotees, and then more and more, and so forth. A dark shadow came down. Many began to weep and cry. Many of them ran towards Katwa. Nimai Pandit was an unprecedented scholar with beautiful features, tall, fair, and benevolent. He had already made the people mad with the holy name of Kṛṣṇa. He had released the two great sinners, Jagai and Madai, from their nasty life. He had checked the Mohammedan ruler, the Qazi, who had broken the Mridanga drum. As a famous Pandit, he had defeated many scholars who came to conquer Nabadweep, which was very much renowned for its high culture and learning, especially for logic. At that time in Nabadweep, logic and worship of material energy, Tantra, and official Hinduism, Smriti, were in high culture. Nabadweep was highly renowned for scholarship. No, just skip ahead. They're just describing some of the standards of Nabadweep. But Nimai Pandit left all of that. He left Nabadweep forever, and he took sannyas, because the people of Nabadweep could not appreciate him. He reached Katwa, where just on the banks of the Ganges lived a sannyasi named Keshava Bharati. Nimai went to him and asked him to take sannyas. Keshava Bharati suddenly found that his ashram was full of luster. At first it seemed as if the sun was rising before him. Then he saw that it was a bright person approaching him. He rose from his seat and with strained eyes approached in wonder. What is this? He thought. Then he realized that the great devotee scholar Nimai Pandit had come. He appeared before him saying, "I want to take sannyas from you, sir." But Keshava Bharati could not accept Nimai's offer. No. "I am charmed by your beauty and personality," he said, "but you are so young, only 24 years old. What about your mother, your wife, and your guardians? Without consulting with them, I cannot venture to give you the robes of renunciation." In the meantime, it was Makara Sankranti, a famous holiday. Many people had come to bathe in the holy waters of the Ganges. They gathered there, and the rumor spread like fire. Nimai Pandit of Nabadweep has come to take sannyas. As many men flocked there until a huge crowd had gathered. They all opposed Mahaprabhu's sannyas. Some of them raised their voices in protest. "You, Keshava Bharati, we won't allow you to give sannyas to this young man. He has a family, he has a mother, he has a wife. We won't allow you. If you give him sannyas, if you give sannyas to this charming young beautiful boy, we will break down your ashram immediately." It took several days for the situation to come under complete control. It was always in the control of Mahaprabhu, but he loves to see the feelings of his devotees displayed. And this, of all paintings I've ever seen anywhere in my life, I think this painting, which is the cover of the Golden Volcano, captures the mood of the devotees of Mahaprabhu on those days. They're all in great despair. Some are falling on the ground, weeping, pulling at their hair. Their clothes are just not even on them properly. There's just so much, we would say, nightmare in what is just about to happen. And there was a lot of kirtan. Anytime anything got really out of control, Mahaprabhu would just start Sankirtan. None of the devotees can resist Sankirtan, so everyone joined in Sankirtan. And conversation would be going on amongst some, and this and that. And it was a very, very dramatic scene, going day and night, not just daytime. Okay, it's over. When emotion takes over, what's the meaning of the clock? As Śrīla Puri Maharaj said, Harikatha does not come and go like a theatrical performance. Many times when he was being asked to stop, he would become very irritated. And we have one nice video in the end. He gets very disturbed by being stopped. And then he looks at everybody, the camera's out there, so he's looking at all of us, and he says that Harikatha is not a theatrical performance. That just it starts on cue and it ends on cue. It is not like that, you see. So, day and night, day and night. Then finally, it was won over. There's some detail about the mantra and the story of the mantra, but we won't tell that right now. But finally, Mahaprabhu, he won over. His desire won over the crowd. And finally, they brought a barber, because shaving the head is part of the ritual of taking sannyas. So they brought a barber to shave Mahaprabhu's head. So at this time, you could say that the Lord's will had won over. And so the barber, it is said that every time he approached to remove the hair from Mahaprabhu's head, that he fainted. And then they would have to revive the barber and get him back to his senses. And then he would approach and he would faint again. And so after a few times, he got composed enough himself to be able to shave Mahaprabhu's head. So Mahaprabhu was sitting and the kirtan was going on and the barber shaving his head. And in the middle of that, Mahaprabhu jumped up from his seat and danced in the kirtan. His head is half shaved. And this was probably the most painful thing any personal associate from Nabadweep of Mahaprabhu had ever seen, in the middle of the kirtan with half a shaven head. So this was a type of madness that overcame the group. And particularly the leader of that madness was Mahaprabhu himself. He was the supreme madman in love of Kṛṣṇa. So then they were able to bring him back to his seat and shave his head. And at that point, it is said that the barber took a vow. He cleaned his instruments, he put them in a box and shut his box. You know how the barbers in India, they carry a little wooden box that's got all the scissors and stuff in it. He closed his box and he vowed never ever to shave anyone's head, never ever to shave a head the rest of his life. He gave up the profession of a barber, he became a sweet maker. And he made sweets and sold them in the market. So that was just kind of like from those hands came many sweet balls in the future for the devotees. He became a sweet maker. And finally, Mahaprabhu accepted the sannyas. Now, here it says Sri Gauranga Avatar has twofold characteristics. The apparent reason for his advent is to deliver people in general from sin and to give them the highest attainment of life, to take them towards Vrindavan, Braja Lila, Śrīla Guru Maharaj says. Śrīla Śrīdhara Mahārāja says. To take them to Braja Lila by giving the holy name of Kṛṣṇa. This is his secondary reason to come. His primary reason, this is the function of the Yuga Avatar, the incarnation of Godhead for the age. The Lord comes to distribute the divine sound and to show how one can reach the highest position through divine sound. Still, he had another purpose to fulfill. Once in Brahma's day, in a special Kali Yuga, Kṛṣṇa himself comes in the mood of Radharani to search for himself. He wants to taste the mood of Radharani, to understand the nature of her inner hankering for Kṛṣṇa, how she can taste the sweetness of Kṛṣṇa by her mood, and what is the extent of the joy she derives. This is his inner purpose. So here, Śrīla Śrīdhara Mahārāja explains quite a bit in relation to that. And then he explains something about this higher plane and gives a word of caution. So let us read that and conclude the class with that. The pangs of separation. When the holy name of Kṛṣṇa enters Srimati Radharani's ear, she becomes perturbed, thinking, is a name as sweet as this possible within this world? This is her reaction, and she experiences another thing. She feels, I can't meet him. A pang of separation comes within her heart. That is called purvarag, the pain of separation that comes before meeting. Mana is another kind of separation. Mana means that when meeting, there is some difference between them in trifle matters. This is the very nature of love. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami says that love moves in a curved way like a serpent. It is not diseased, but this is the nature of the path of love. Sometimes with a trifle cause, or with no cause, a feeling comes that, oh, he is neglecting me. He wants to avoid me. And thereby Srimati Radharani thinks, I don't want his company. Although cent% appreciation is there, for the time being some opposing sentiments spring up from the underground. A clash comes in the sentiments of the two, and one wants to avoid the company of the other. Then there is divine jealousy. In prema vaichitya, jealousy rises to such a degree that although they are already together, still a thought comes within and makes them think that they are far away from each other. These different kinds of separation are found only in the Madhurya Ras. Prema vaichitya is that condition which arises when Kṛṣṇa is there and Radharani is just nearby. But seeing her own shadow reflected on Kṛṣṇa, she becomes jealous and she thinks another lady is there. So she feels great pain of separation and she thinks, what is this? Another lady is there? Her mind revolts, but her friend Lalita is warning her. What are you saying? It is only your own image reflected there. Can't you see it? Then Radharani comes to her senses. She notices, oh, it is my own shadow. Then that feeling is immediately gone. This is an example of prema vaichitya. These are extremely high transcendental subjects, and although this is not to be discussed in detail, this is the nature of divine love in union and separation. Both are interdependent, and one cannot exist without the other, and separation is created willingly to enhance union. Prabhas is another kind of separation. There are two types of prabhas. One is within separation. One is when the separation is for a limited time. Another is longer, when one has left the country or gone to a far-off place, as when Kṛṣṇa went to Mathura to attend his other duties. These are the four types of separation pangs between the lover and the beloved. Of course, these transcendental topics are very high, and we should not indulge in them carelessly. For if we project mundane characteristics into the higher plane, our future realization will be harmed. Now, many devotees would argue and say that, well, we understand that Kṛṣṇa is not, mundane. We understand this is all transcendental. Then I could say, what's inside of Kṛṣṇa's chest? Do you really think he has a lung and a pancreas and a heart like we do? No one would venture to say. Kṛṣṇa can pass water. Does that mean there's urine inside? He sometimes, when he's a baby boy, for the amusement of Mother Yasoda, stands in the courtyard and passes water. He doesn't have to pass water. What is Kṛṣṇa? What is a transcendental body? What can the artist show us? Oh, to show us that body, so far it's just the artist, right? They got their paint mixes. They all got a different color. They all got a different shape. And none of them would venture to tell you what was just beyond that shoulder. What is Kṛṣṇa's shoulder joint? Is it really a ball and socket joint in his shoulder? I have a suspicion that it has nothing to do with what we perceive this material world to be in any way, shape, and form, other than to say this world and all its wonder is just a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. Not just in the dealings, but in the substance there. Everything is Satchit Ananda there. Everything is made of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. How can you make anything out of these things? These things are only ethereal things here. We have some knowledge, concept. Eternity, how can you make something out of eternity? Where do you buy a bag of eternity to add water and make it into something? How do you make something out of eternity? You see, it is transcendental to this world, far beyond our imagination. And so similarly are the feelings. We cannot understand even what Kṛṣṇa's body is. We tell ourselves, well, it's not like this one. But we have no way to know in which way it's not like this one. Well, it doesn't die, it doesn't grow old, and things like that. That doesn't mean we have mastered the understanding of the body of the Supreme Lord. Within it lives everything. Within it are all living beings. Within it is everything. Not blood, bones, marrow, joint sockets, bile, and not even like transcendental bile. Although if Kṛṣṇa wants to pass urine, he can pass urine. He's the Supreme Lord. He can do anything. But we generally don't think there because we have no scope to think there, and there's no necessity to think there. Similarly, about Kṛṣṇa's love affairs, we have no scope to think there, and also there's no necessity to think there. Thinking is a function of the brain. Śrīla Śrīdhara Mahārāja said it's one of the material elements. This is explained in particular which chapter he explains that. The defect, he said, in using the word mind, in telling people to think of Kṛṣṇa's pastimes, is that the mind itself is one of the material elements, just like your knee is made of material elements, you see. You may engage your encasement in Kṛṣṇa's service, but the pastimes of Kṛṣṇa are not reached through the agency of the material elements. They are descending. Subjectively, they are coming down from the plane, the higher plane. They are realized, they descend. So it is also not necessary to think. Although it is not wrong that you remember Kṛṣṇa's pastimes. There are Kṛṣṇa's pastimes. What is wrong is the excess that you want to discuss. And I don't know anybody here that does that, but I'm just speaking in general. to discuss the details, here to set details. Drawn into details is not the path. We know Kṛṣṇa has transcendental love affairs. We are not drawn into details. We know in any rasa, we are not drawn into details. That which is given in the Kṛṣṇa book is just a general outline which shows a Sakya, Shanta, Dasya, Vatsalya, Madhurya, just a general outline, not drawn to detail. Why? We have no qualification to go to detail because we will misread so many of those details. Because we only have a point of reference, which is the perverted reflection. So not drawn into details. But Mahaprabhu says, about the holy name, drink deep from the chalice of this holy name of Kṛṣṇa. Fill your soul with the holy name of Kṛṣṇa. Fill your mind with the holy name of Kṛṣṇa. Fill every atom of your existence with the holy name of Kṛṣṇa. And there is the path of perfection. Somebody wrote in an article, Śrīla Śrīdhara Mahārāja was a great advocate of Smaranam. I was like, what a massacre. Huh? He is the advocate. It was in that magazine. One advocate, one person wrote there. He is a great advocate of Smaranam. It's just like, oh, massacre. He is a great advocate of Kirtan. Shravanam, Kirtanam. This is our advocacy. Hearing and chanting of the name of Kṛṣṇa. That which is Smaranam, that is a transcendental awakening of the soul. That is not a function of the mind. I think it's in Bhajan Real and Apparent he describes some of these things in one of the book's sermons. As a function of the mind is a material element. That which reveals Kṛṣṇa must be beyond. And the holy name of Kṛṣṇa, it is beyond. The holy name of Kṛṣṇa is that thing which is given, which can enter the ear and come onto your tongue, in which you can repeat over and over again, and contact with it purifies your eternal consciousness. But approach to the Leela of Kṛṣṇa doesn't have that. Otherwise, all Hindus would be pure devotees by now. They approach to the Leela of Kṛṣṇa, what is this boy doing? Shame, shame, shame. What God he is? Debauch, simply running with women. Shame, shame, shame. It doesn't have that all-purifying effect. Now, people don't come back cursing on the holy name of Kṛṣṇa. Shame, shame, shame this name, shame the name, shame the name. Nobody's got anything to say bad about the name. Maybe they don't chant it, but they have nothing bad to say. Only sometimes a few demons say this name is brainwashing. We agree. Washing all the filth and contaminated nasty things out of the brain. Brainwashing process. You should adopt this process. Clean your brain. Cleanliness is next to godliness. A clean brain is next to godliness. Cheto darpana marjanam, purification of the body, mind, and senses is required. So, I'll just finish in a minute now. Of course, these are transcendental topics. They are very high, and we should not indulge in them carelessly. For if we project mundane characteristics into the higher plane, our future realization will be harmed. Our mundane experience will tend to take us down, so we must proceed with caution. What we conceive of at present is not to be found in the plane of Kṛṣṇa's pastimes. It is a far higher plane of existence than the realm of our experience. Our vision is adulterated. We have only an unalloyed conception of the original thing. We must keep this in mind, and with this caution, we may deal with these higher things. It's called our relative position in relation to the Absolute, how we will deal with these things. We have one video wherein there are 4 devotees there. One must have been in May, very hot time of year, discussing with Śrīla Śrīdhara Mahārāja. Questions were going around. There were several. He was asked to describe the hexagonal figure of the Lord's abode. Probably what the devotees were looking for was something like a tantric diagram of what the floor plan of the Lord's own abode. But that hexagonal figure of the Lord's abode, to Śrīla Śrīdhara Mahārāja, meant the divine pastimes of the Supreme Lord. And he just said, I'm sorry. He said, I'm sorry. But we are not allowed to discuss that intimate plane. And he spoke for nearly an hour with what we call the word of caution. Don't try to enter there with your mundane inquisitiveness, that you want to know what it's all about. This is a disqualification. Try to enter there with a bowed head as a servant, to serve those who have come to tell that such a plane exists. You see, we are told there is so much money in the bank, but if you go to the bank and simply start inquiring about the money, you will raise suspicion. A black car will be driving by, maybe a black helicopter will be over your house in a day or two. Too much inquiry raises suspicion. Someone comes to your house and asks, oh, well, where do you guys have your safe? In your master bedroom or in the basement? It's just like, what do you want to know that for? It raises suspicion. In the eternal pastimes of Kṛṣṇa, it also raises suspicion. It is not a wanted thing. Why? Because it's a brother of knowledge. You want to know, and this is a defect. We should want to know up to a point where we're convinced to serve. Convinced to serve, and want to know how I can serve. That is the criterion. That is the criterion by which we are to adjust ourselves, how to serve. It is safer to deal with the topics of separation between Radha and Govinda than with their union. Of course, we must understand that the pain of separation experienced by Radha and Govinda has nothing to do with this plane. And so with this caution, we may talk to some extent about separation, to no extent about union, actually. We should not talk about their kissing. You will think it is the boys and girls. You will think it is in another way. You will think it is another way. The proof of it is most young men are not attracted to the gopis' leelas with Kṛṣṇa. They like the ones where he's cracking heads, kicking out teeth, and cutting off arms and legs. The girls are like, yeah, whatever. And then they discover Kṛṣṇa's pastime with the gopis, and they find that this is attracting to listen to. Because both are thinking in the mundane. This is a girlish thing, this is a boyish thing. But actually it's neither boyish or girlish thing, you see. We are thinking of ourselves in the wrong way. What happened? But it will be extremely dangerous for us to discuss or to think of when Radha and Govinda and their intimate friends are combined, enjoying each other's company. Extremely dangerous. If we deal with the pastimes of Radha and Kṛṣṇa with any mundane conception, we will create a great offense. So to conceive of the union of Radha and Govinda is more dangerous than cultivating feelings of separation, as Mahaprabhu has shown by his example. Shri Gauranga Mahaprabhu ki jai. So, in the act of taking sannyas, Mahaprabhu entered the feelings of separation into the hearts of all his devotees, and even those people who had not yet become devotees. And this was his supreme benediction. This great tragedy that took place on this day is actually a supreme benediction for the devotees, assuring them success in their journey back to home, back to Godhead. Go Premanandi, Hari 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 Hari.